Hi, and welcome to another product knowledge video. Today's video is on accountants' professional liability insurance. I'm the host here, which you'll see my picture there, but more importantly, you're going to see John Torvey. He's the Vice President of Marketing and Sales. He's an expert on this. It's of the Herbert Landy Insurance Agency, and they're a national program manager for many errors and omissions professional liability programs. They were founded in 1949, but he's consented, and I appreciate it very much, John, to help us understand what accountants' professional liability coverage is all about. So I guess this question one, John, would you tell us who's covered? Who's it meant to insure?
Sure, absolutely, George. And first of all, I should say thank you. It's our pleasure to be part of Monday Morning Market, so thanks for having me here today.
My pleasure.
Accountants' professional liability insurance is really geared, from our perspective, towards all accounting professionals. Many of our competitors and some of our other programs out there really cater to the CPA firm or to larger firms. Landy takes the position that all accounting professionals, whether from solo practitioner to large firm, require and need the best coverage that they can possibly obtain in the performance of their professional duties. So certainly we insure CPAs, and again, they could be a solo practitioner or a larger firm. But we also extend the very same coverage to enrolled agents, tax preparers, and the bookkeepers, which tend to be smaller businesses and don't always get the coverage that they really deserve.
Well, I have a question on that, John. I don't know the difference between enrolled agents and tax preparers. What's the difference?
Well, an enrolled agent is a tax preparer who has a special designation and certification from the Internal Revenue Service, and they're in fact authorized to go before and testify before the IRS on behalf of their clients, and therefore their professional activities and their testimony is recognized by the IRS. So they certainly maintain an extra degree of credential.
I see how it goes. Okay, well, I'm learning too. Now, over the course of these many years, you've been in business for a long, long time. You've seen many claims, I know, and other problems with accountants' practice. What are the most common types of malpractice claims and problems, I guess, that get accountants into trouble?
Sure. We've in fact been doing this since 1962, George, if you don't mind me putting in a little plug there, longer than any other insurance provider in the United States, we believe. And so we've certainly seen our share of claims. And the number one claim is absolutely related to tax advice and preparation. It probably results in well over half of all claims against accounting professionals.
What's that mean? I mean, does that mean they don't do it right, or they make mistakes, or what's that mean?
Well, yes, all of that, and you know, we should point out that sometimes claims against accounting professionals or other professionals are allegations of an error or an omission. It's not always a guarantee that they did do something wrong. But yes, it is focused on some type of error or alleged error that the tax preparer or accountant has made in the filing of the tax return. I can give you a couple of examples if you'd like.
Sure.
You know, from individual returns to larger corporate returns, the things that the IRS is looking at and therefore can come back at the citizen or the business might involve a person or a business taking a very aggressive tax return position, which might cause alarm at the IRS. Tax shelters, estate planning, and gift tax areas are areas under scrutiny by the IRS, and therefore they're looking at that tax return to see if the preparer has made any errors or there's something of question there. Operating losses result in very large claims. Those obviously relate to businesses who are filing corporate tax returns, but the IRS is looking at operating loss statements, and therefore something that the tax preparer needs to be especially vigilant about. And otherwise, in general, you know, failing to make the proper elections for deductions and so on or even late filings or not filing the proper
Yeah,
form.
I see. Right.
Believe it or not, we see a lot of claims against tax preparers where unfortunately the filing was delayed or the filing did not include all of the proper forms the IRS was looking for.
That's fascinating. I'm sure learning. Just keep it going here. Give me some more claims.
Sure, absolutely. There are other claims that relate to missed deadlines, as I mentioned, and a lot of them are simple lapses in judgment. If we could take a look at the next slide, George, if
All
you don't
right.
mind, let's move
Not at
that one
all.
ahead there.
Okay.
And yep, there we go. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Um,
I'm sorry. Get back to it. My fault, but that's
nope,
okay.
nope.
Life goes on. Okay.
Moving back. Absolutely. You had asked about common errors, and common errors are certainly what this is all about. And I noted some of them that we see on a frequent basis. Negligent misrepresentation versus common errors really speaks to, did the tax preparer or accountant make a quote honest mistake, or were they in fact incompetent or negligent in doing their job? And how this relates, one must understand that claims against tax practitioners and accountants are brought by attorneys. And attorneys file lawsuits in various jurisdictions, and they file lawsuits with certain allegations, negligent misrepresentation being one of the most common, and that is in fact indicating or alleging that the accounting professional was negligent or incompetent in doing their job. And what attorneys do is they'll look in their jurisdiction, they'll look at what cases have been successful in court, and that's how they'll file the suit against the accounting professional, whether it's misrepresentation, negligent misrepresentation, and so on. These all have very specific legal terms. What that means for the accounting professional is that there's a lot of ways that they can get sued, but more importantly, if they commit an honest and common error, so to speak, the consequences of that are going to be a lot less severe than a negligent misrepresentation finding.
I got you. Well, that's fascinating. There's so many cases that you see daily, and you really don't know what they're about. I guess the average person like me and a lot of others listening to this, but that's fascinating to see that. Here's another
Yeah.
one: lapses in judgment. Now we're back to human error again, I guess, huh?
Typically human error, and some of these issues related to lapses in judgment and especially poor communication can be easily avoided. The accounting world, certainly CPAs especially, but tax preparers and enrolled agents, have certain standards of practice. And those standards of practice have to do with clearly communicating the scope of their professional services, when they begin, when they end, and in between the time I start working for you and the time I stop working for you, what I'm going to do. And if a accounting professional doesn't communicate that effectively, then they get themselves in trouble, because the client, the person who is hiring out for the accounting work, has potentially unrealistic expectations about what the scope of work is, and if that person doesn't feel like their expectations have been reached, then a lawsuit will follow.
Well,
And that really speaks, yeah, the unclear expectations and the poor communication relating to what you need to do, Mr. and Mrs. Client, as my client, to help me prepare your tax return. So the unclear expectations and the poor communication kind of flow. There are some really easy ways, I hate to use the word easy, but really, quite straightforward ways for an accounting professional to deal with this effectively, and that's the use of engagement letters, which again sets the expectations for the scope of work, and a disengagement letter which says, George, thank you for your business. I've completed our assigned and contractual obligation to you. Thank you very much. If we can help you in the future, please let us know. And that clearly states that our job is done, that you hired us to do. By doing those things, the accounting professional significantly reduces their chance of a lawsuit.
I got it. I like that Shakespeare quote down there, don't you? Expectations, the root of all heartache, and I suppose that's
It, it,
true.
it's very much true. We must remember that, especially for the accounting professional who's working with the average citizen, whether it's a tax return or, estate planning, those kind of things, setting
Mm-hmm.
up special needs trusts or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The citizen, the person is not sophisticated. They don't understand. They hire someone to take care of their problem. It's really up to the professional to outline the scope of what that work is going to be and how they're going to solve that problem.
I can see that. And then here's the big one, I bet you. These days it's just wild, isn't it?
We are seeing almost on a daily basis data security breaches that can include cyber, computer-related hacking and spamming and phishing and spoofing and all of those crazy words that are associated with cyber-related breaches and crime. But we still see old-fashioned dumpster diving and stealing of file folders, misplaced cell phones with client data on them, all of those things. But the data breach is a rapidly growing threat against accounting professionals. And let's remember that out of all of the professionals that most of us deal with on a day-to-day or a year-to-year basis, our accountants, our tax preparers, our CPAs have our most sensitive information. They have our names, they have our
Mm-hmm.
social security numbers, they may have bank account information, they have our W-2s. So the need for extreme privacy protection and steps to help minimize the risk of a data breach is especially important for accounting professionals.
I really hear from it all the time. Well, and finally, let's talk about the coverage features that there are available now.
Sure, absolutely. We think we offer state-of-the-art coverage there, George, and that starts with the definition of professional services. And everyone who holds a professional liability policy wants to look and see, what am I covered for?
Yeah.
So we have a broad definition of professional services that extends to coverage for investment advisors, personal, fiduciary, and pro bono services, which we think are important. A client, an accounting professional or firm can build their policy. They can look at multiple deduction options. And if, in fact, there's a claim, they can look at ways to reduce their deductible in terms of how they interact with the insurance company.
All right.
We're very proud that we're one of the few companies that offers coverage built right into the policy for embezzlement, theft, and unlawful use of funds. So if you have a rogue employee,
Yep.
and they unfortunately steal from the company, there is coverage for that. We do provide premium credits, which in layman's terms means you get a discount
Right.
for CE classes taken by the accounting professional.
All right.
ERP options, extended reporting period options. When a professional goes out of business, when an accounting business closes, it doesn't relieve them of their professional obligation. They can still be sued for work they've done in the past. So we offer that firm or that professional many ways to protect themselves for the work done in the past, even though they're no longer practicing. And we also offer free retirement, death, and disability policy coverages if, in fact, the professional encounters any of those three circumstances. The first one being better than the last two, certainly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and now directors and officers, a lot of folks might wonder why that's there. We do see claims against accounting professionals for work that they do on behalf of nonprofit organizations. They sit on a board, they assist with a board or a nonprofit organization. They're getting sued for those activities. So our policy offers some protection for an insured who is also a director and officer of a nonprofit organization.
Okay. This is important.
Most importantly,
Always.
yeah, right. I mean, what the bottom line with any insurance policy is when you need it, you want it to be there. We offer coverage by an A+ superior rated carrier that's been around since the 1800s. And, we want to make sure that if there's a claim, there's the financial backing to support that claim. I can tell you that that's one of the highest ratings amongst our peers and competitors in the industry.
Yeah, everybody, if those of you not in the insurance business are listening to this, it's a big competitive advantage. You just, the agencies continue to find the very best if they can, and AM Best is the rating organization in the insurance business. Well, optional coverages.
Okay, these are things that we see our clients needing more and more. Network security relates to what we were talking about earlier about data breaches. We offer some basic coverage there, but we can offer the opportunity to expand that coverage quite significantly if the firm needs additional network security coverage. Employment practices is the type of protection that is for an employer. If an employee sues them perhaps for discrimination, sexual harassment, those types of things, employment practices is available within the policy as opposed to a standalone policy. And because so many accounting professionals also engage in the financial and insurance worlds, we can also add on coverage as a registered representative or a life insurance agent.
All right. Last but not least, how difficult is it to obtain these coverages?
Well, you know, for a small accounting firm, a startup firm, we offer our unique express application. It only has 9 questions to qualify. The prices and coverage options are right on the policy. If you answer all 9 questions true, you're all done. There's no more paperwork. You know, we like to say write the check and we'll send you the policy. What's unique especially is that we offer a 2-year policy option. And this is especially important for new firms and smaller firms that are growing because professional liability premiums are ultimately based on your revenues. So as your revenues grow, as your company grows, frankly, you're going to pay more for your professional liability insurance. With a 2-year policy option, you can lock in the premium and not have to worry about a rate increase next year. And even if you have a claim, you're still guaranteed coverage the 2nd year at the same price. So we think that's very, very unique. And again, it is ideal for startups and small firms.
Well, John, thank you. You've done a wonderful job here for sharing this information. You and the other professionals around the country are people we all rely on, and you're part of that wholesale market, or we call it the specialty market providers that make it all happen. And I really appreciate it. And after, let me tell people who are still on this to after you've seen this video, remember it's an overview only. It's not intended to list any or all of the specific coverages that you might be needed to address your specific insurance needs. So you should always contact your agent and determine the specifics of your insurance needs. John, thank you again.
George, it's my pleasure, and again, thank you for letting us be part of Monday Morning Markets.
I love it.